everybody, Jane here, and as you can see we are not in our usual recording spot today. Normally I record from my bedroom, which tends to be a little on the dark side. Figuratively, not literally. However, I have the house to myself today, so I thought we would go to the living room, enjoy the couch, enjoy the natural light, and hope that it is a little brighter than our normal videos. Maybe it'll be too bright. I don't know. Maybe it'll be washed out. We will see. Anyway, I am here to do my wrap up for June and July. It has been a crap reading 2 months, and in 2 months I have read 4 books. Just 4 in 2 months. So I decided to combine June and July's wrap up because of this. The first book I read was Hyperbole and a Half. This is a graphic novel-ish. I don't know how else to describe it. There is commentary and story, and then images. I ended up rating this a 4 out of 5. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought the stories were kind of cute and silly. It was definitely kind of a fun, chill read. I had a good time with it. If you are looking for something that is humorous, but like a darker humor, this may be something you really enjoy. I had a good time with it. She makes a lot of jokes about her dogs, some of the things that happened to her as a child, some of the stories of things like there was one time that her mom took her and her sister out walking in the woods and they got a little lost, and her mom was trying to convince them that they weren't lost. And so the kids are eventually catching on and being like, clearly something is not right. And the mom's just trying to be like, no, we're gathering pine cones. We need lots and lots of pine cones. And the kids are like, okay, now we have all the pine cones. Can we go home now? So it was a really cute, fun read. And I needed this because I've been a little bit moody, hence part of the reason I haven't been reading very much. Then there was the book that I believe put me into the slump that I've been in, and that is Thunderhead. I absolutely loved Scythe. I think I gave it a 4 out of 5. It was awesome. This world/series is about a place where people no longer die naturally. There is enough food, there is really great medical stuff, and there is a supercomputer that kind of rules everything. However, the supercomputer doesn't have jurisdiction over one aspect of human life, and that is death. And that is left up to the Scythes. In book 1, we had 2 apprentice Scythes who were trying to become full Scythes. This book takes what 1 did and then just, in my opinion, blew it all to hell. So I actually really was having a good time with this book until the last 75 pages. And up until the last 75 pages, I would have called this book a low 4. I didn't like it as much as Scythe, but it was definitely an above average book. There was a couple things that had happened that I'd felt like were kind of dumb and I didn't really like, and I thought were cheap, if you will. Then in the last 75 pages, the book just went crazy. It went off the rails. So at the end of the day, I decided to give it a 2 out of 5. For me, a 2 out of 5 is a book that has some serious problems in it that make it so that I didn't enjoy it. So it's not a personal preference, didn't enjoy. It is, there was something I felt was fundamentally wrong with this book. And for me, that was the last 75 pages. I really debated whether I was going to go on to read the 3rd book, but at this point I don't think I am. I have a friend who read the whole series, and she said if the things that upset you, like to the point of slumping and wanting to throw this book in, were the stuff in Thunderhead, just more of that in the Toll. And I was like, okay, so I do not think I'm going to finish this series. I really was angry about how off the rails this went, and if you've read Scythe and really liked it, I would say maybe don't bother moving on to the other books, because This book, at least, the second, was not as good as the first, and I'm really worried that the third is going to be too much like this, and I'm really going to hate it. So, Thunderhead, huge disappointment. This may be, if I remember to put it on, one of the biggest disappointments of the year. Like, this is a seriously not okay book. So, the other two books I managed to read were books for my book club. And honestly, I don't think I would have gotten any reading done had it not been for book club because I was slumping so hard. This is Sworn to Silence. It is about a police detective who she grew up in the Amish community, and now she's a detective in an area where there is a large Amish population, and so part of her role is to go back and forth between the Amish community and as the Amish call them, English community, and kind of help settle some tension there and help everybody get along. In the course of all this happening, there is a girl who turns up murdered, and she seems to have a lot of similarities to a serial killer, the victims of a serial killer who was in their area. I think it was in the past. I think it was like 15 years ago. Although Kate is the girl's name, has some personal knowledge of the other case, and she has every reason to believe that the victim is not related to the other case. So she is trying to find the truth and also to deal with her personal knowledge of everything involved with the murders. I end up giving this a 3 out of 5. There were things I really loved about this book. I loved that Kate grew up Amish. I loved the Amish and English stuff. I loved her relationship, the complexities of her relationship and her feelings about her relationship with her still Amish family. There was a lot of stuff I could really relate to as somebody who went from a very conservative religion that their family practiced to somebody who's no longer a practitioner of that religion. Like, so much about Kate spoke to me. But there were some things I really didn't like about this book as well. One of those things is, and I'm not going to go too in depth with this because of the potential spoilers on it, but Kate's involvement with the past case was something that I wish hadn't been in this book. This is book 1 in the series, and I felt like there was just almost too much going on with Kate's background that we couldn't get a chance to know her in her role. It was, I don't want to say it was an info dump because that doesn't seem fair, but it was like, this is this really important thing about Kate, but maybe if I'd gotten to know her as a person first and as her role now in chief of police, I would have been better able to handle the stuff that was revealed and more okay with it. This book in some ways felt like going on a date with somebody and they confess to you the very worst thing they've ever done while you're still eating the dinner rolls and haven't even gotten your entrees yet. That's kind of how I felt about this book. Also, there's a romance in it that I wasn't entirely feeling, and I felt like the characters' personal stuff, whether it was romance or Kate's involvement with the case, and particularly her involvement with the previous case, I felt like it really took away from the present day crime. I would have liked to know more about the present day crime personally, and maybe some of the other stuff could have been a little lighter. I did not guess who the killer was until close to the end of the book when like heavy hints were being dealt, so I was fine with that. I will warn you, if you do not like graphic violence, this book may be a little bit much. I didn't have a problem with it, but several of the women in the mystery book club I'm part of felt that this was too graphic for them to read. I will also probably go on to read more books in the series. Like I said, it wasn't bad. It was a nice little 3, and if we could focus less on Kate's relationship and Kate's past and more on the mystery at hand and also Kate's ties to the Amish community, I think this could be a series I really, really enjoy. The last book I read was also for book club. I'm part of a mystery book club and then part of a regular book club, and this is actually a very new thing in my life. My kids are visiting their dad for the summer, and I'm trying to stay busy so I don't miss them like crazy. So I joined some book clubs, and I hope to continue them once the kids come back, but we'll see how life and time goes. So the last book I read this month was Anxious People by Frederick Backman. This is the first Backman I've read, and I can already tell this is an author I would definitely be willing to read more of their books. I really loved a lot of things about this book, especially the style. So this book is kind of hard to explain. There is a person who tries to rob a bank, and when the cops come after them, they go to a real estate showing, an apartment showing, and they take the people in the apartment showing hostage, sort of. And this book is mostly about all the characters involved. The police who are trying to figure out what's going on, the hostages, the bank robber. It is very much a character study. It is told in omniscient narration, which I normally hate. But I ended up rating this book a 4 out of 5. I had a really good time with it. Way better than I should have had for what it was. I will also say, if you don't like over-the-top humor, this book may not be for you. And I think this book is one that could be extremely divisive. I think this is the kind of book that you either love it or you hate it. And I happen to love it, but I know some of the other people in the book club really didn't enjoy it nearly as much as I did. I will say it's also fairly slow in some parts. One of the things that I loved the most about it was just the characters were so interesting. There are a father and son who are police officers. There is a husband and wife who renovate apartments who are looking at the apartment. There is an elderly lady, Estelle, who is looking at the apartment for her daughter. There is Zara, who it's her hobby to look at apartments. And there is a young couple who are about to have a baby who are looking at the apartments, and they are a lesbian couple, and the one wife has just hated every apartment that they've looked at, and the other one, who is actually carrying the baby, is like, we just need an apartment. Like, I don't care, it doesn't have to be perfect, we just gotta live somewhere. So I really enjoyed watching these characters, learning about who they were, watching them grow throughout this book. I felt like a lot of the stuff in it was predictable, but not all of it. And I will say the end was a little bit slow. Like, I was ready for the book to be done, and they were basically like catching us up on, okay, and this is what happened to this person, and this is what happened to this person. And I was like, dude, we're good. They lived happily ever after. So it was a little bit, it definitely had faults, it had flaws, but the writing was so good. There was so much philosophy, so much philosophical like questions being asked by the narrator and by the characters, and so many interesting, deep, and complex characters that I really, really thought this was a good book and really enjoyed it. So those were the 4 books I've read in the last 2 months. I am hoping that August is a better reading month, but I don't know that it will be. Life's been kind of crazy. So, yeah. This has been Jane. My social media is below. Also below are a list of the books I have written, if you are interested in checking them out. And I will see you next time. Bye!